their emotions and their feelings and their opinions about the role of parenting matters because these children matter. And there is no doubt that those children know how they make their moms feel.
I wish that we could all say that parenting is amazing and we've never had a day where we've doubted if it's something that we want to do or are equipped to do, or even that we find joy in. Sometimes when we think about the dynamics of what it means to be a parent, it can really be challenging, partly because we've lost a lot of the freedoms and maybe even the dreams that we've had for ourselves, for our career, for where we want to live, for what our house looks like and how clean it is. A lot of those dreams have died. And it can lead us really to a dark place when we think about our family and our kids and sometimes even our marriages. Should we wallow in those dark places? Today on the Celebrate Kids podcast, in this daily segment, Facing the Dark, Dr. Kathy's going to go at this. Let's talk a little bit about the dynamics about the reality of what it means to be maybe a little bit disappointed or challenged at our reality. And how can we find hope and courage and maybe even resolve to face the challenges in front of us and honor the Lord in it? So let's turn now to Dr. Kathy Cook.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So Dr. Kathy, this last week, commentator Matt Walsh released a video exposing a subreddit called Regretful Parents. The Reddit and the ideas in it really are going viral in a lot of different social media circles. Walsh critiqued the commentators and challenged the comments, specifically where one mother says that she really hates being a mother. She says that she enjoys maybe about 1% of it. The mom says that she can't think of anything that she enjoys doing with her daughter, except she kind of says maybe cooking. Another parent kind of goes on to have this regret for really having a daughter who they say they have really no love for, but they work to treat her well so as not to, quote unquote, mess up her childhood. Dr. Kathy, at the end of the video, Walsh essentially says that we need to call these kinds of emotions wrong. He says it's possible to have wrong emotions, and we as adults and people in society, we need to tell these adults that are parents that these emotions that they have are really wrong emotions. Dr. Kathy, I wanted to ask you, as we start off, do parents' emotions and reactions really matter? What are your thoughts there as we kind of wrestle through these different feelings that some parents are having bubble up to the surface of culture right now?
They matter greatly. Like, I am so sad by this. I'm disturbed by this because if you have chosen to have children, or even if it's an accidental pregnancy and you choose to keep a child, I would hope that you would pray that you would delight in this role of parenting, which other than maybe staying married to a spouse forever, might be the most important commitment that you'll ever make. Plus, a commitment to Christ. To know that they matter greatly. The sadness that I believe that these moms who are telling us that being a mom doesn't matter, I think deep down they know it does, or they know it's supposed to. So they're grieving constantly, and that puts them in a world of hurt. Their heart isn't accessible to anyone. They're not able to raise up these children the way that they should be helped and motivated and inspired and grown into the beautiful creations that God intended for them to be. Their emotions and their feelings and their opinions about the role of parenting matters because these children matter. And there is no doubt that those children know how they make their moms feel. I'm going to say one other thing, Wayne. At the beginning of the school year, there are many parents who post on social media, the summer's already over. I'm delighted my kid is going to have another year in school, but I'm going to miss her. Like, I'm sad for me, I'm glad for my kid. And every once in a while, there'll be a Facebook friend of mine. I don't know the person, but we're connected on social media. And this mom will post, finally, I get my life back. And I just want to weep because I know that that child feels that emotion from that mom.
Yeah, Dr. Kathy, can you maybe speak to that a little bit? Maybe speak to, I would say, maybe me as a dad, right? When I got married, I remember a quote that Tim Keller gave where he said, marriage is the greatest freedom loss that you'll ever experience. And being a parent, I think, is maybe putting you into a free fall for freedom. There just doesn't seem to be anything that you can grip onto sometimes when you're parenting, because you wake up in the morning and really your day is not your own. You're making
Mm,
breakfast, then you're making lunch, then you're making dinner. And in between, then you're trying to, establish your children or your spouse and to different places where they can flourish and grow.
mm.
And you don't oftentimes have freedom in that. Maybe speak to me as a dad or to other parents out there who might feel like that this is kind of a freedom free fall that we end up finding ourselves in.
It is. I think you're so healthy to admit that, and you're so wise to wake up with low expectations. That your needs will be met. That you'll be able to have a long, slow cup of coffee at the coffee shop, and no one will need you. So yes, own it and expect it for a season. Ideally, we live in a healthy way so that we live a long life and so that eventually the day-to-day demands of being a mom and a dad will begin to dissipate, and you'll have kids that'll go off here and there and you'll have fewer at home. And then eventually you'll be that, empty nest and you'll be able to quote unquote get back to life. But no, your life is your life and it is what it is supposed to be. And it ought to be lived in that glorious way. And I'm also going to say, Wayne, and this is true, when parents discipline well, when parents motivate well, when parents teach children character, when parents teach children how to serve at home and they don't, cry and whine every time there's a chore for them to do, when we teach service, when we teach love, when we teach other-centeredness, and when we teach agreeable as a character quality, then life can be glorious. And even when you have as many kids as you and your wife have, you can still have moments of freedom, which I know you have because you have good kids. So parents who say to me they have nothing, they have no time to themselves, I'm like, there's something wrong here.
So, Dr. Kathy, I do think that there are those places where we find ourselves, and we would probably admit as parents, there is something wrong here, right? What do we do when we find ourselves in that spot? Maybe, like you said, we don't have that maybe space for freedom, or we don't have that structure in our family and with our kids. How do we take that first step to get to a place where there is a little bit of order? So there is now space or maybe exercise some more freedom as a parent.
I appreciate that question because if we can figure out how to do that, then maybe we won't be unhappy and we won't be a regretting parent. So I love that question. I think first we have to grieve what isn't, and we have to say the choice to marry young and the choice to have these children, even maybe before my career was established, means that I will prioritize my time for my kids and my money goes to my kids. And the dream I had when I was 16, is no longer real. And I'm going to grieve that. And parents have to own that they had maybe an expectation or a thought or a belief, or dad had, implied something would be possible by the time you're 25, that we grieve that and that we love what we're doing, that we choose to pray love into our possibilities. Father God, help me delight in the busyness of my day. Help me delight in the busyness of my day. I don't want to put you on a spot, Wayne, and you can edit this out if you want. I know that you would say that you're not a perfect husband or father. However, one of the things that I've really come to respect about you is how often you tell me that you love being a dad. Like I'll say, isn't it loud and crazy? And you'll be like, it's just fun. Like you have, I think, a realistic attitude toward the busyness of the life that God has given you. And you see it as a life from God, which I think allows you and your precious wife to not just accept it, but really flourish and thrive in that reality. So we need to grieve what isn't, accept what is, make the changes we can make. There is counseling, there are therapy programs, there are Mom's Day Out, and there's Friday night fun at the church where you get to drop off your kids and you get to go do something. You can date your wife, at 11 p.m. at night when the kids are in bed, even though you guys are tired. You find a way to meet the needs that you think are legitimate, and then you grieve the things that can't happen yet. And you have an idea in your mind that this is a season and there's a time coming when maybe I'll get back to what I thought I might want to do. Hope that comes across right.
Yeah, I love that, Dr. Kathy. To close here, I think that it's really helpful for us to, have a path forward. But sometimes, and it might come a little bit out of your book, 5 to Thrive, where you talk about that we have this change process that if we want to change a habit, we have to kind of address the bad habit and then, infuse a new habit in the space that we had the bad habit kind of living in.
Hmm.
But I think sometimes we might overlook a little bit of this bad habit. And I want to ask you this question to
Hmm.
close. What do you think causes parents to have this emotion and this reaction of really not really liking being a parent? Will they always be regretful parents? I think that sometimes if we don't identify what is causing us to have regret or have these opinions about parenting, we might always be a regretful parent. So, what is it, do you think, that's causing this attitude right now, specifically in our culture, to kind of spike up and really be something that a lot of us might, I don't know, hitch our wagons to, so to speak?
I appreciate the question, and I'll reiterate something I've already said, and that is that I wouldn't enjoy being a parent either if my kids were obnoxious. If my kids were demanding and hateful and never grateful and never cooperating, it would be exhausting. And even I would question, what have I done to give birth to these people? So the lack of teaching and the lack of training and the lack of a higher expectation allows children to be carefree when they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be, again, under the guidance and maturity of a mom and a dad. So I think that's a reason that we might not enjoy our season of parenting. And the other thing I'm going to say boldly is self-centeredness and selfishness. If I am a self-centered, selfish human, I don't want to have to be raising all these people that are demanding so much of my time, energy, thinking, money, and the freedom that I've lost. So I would ask anybody listening, and I'm grateful that you're here. Thank you for not changing the channel. Thanks for finishing out the podcast episode. And just ask yourself, is my character here the issue? Are my kids worthy of love? Why not have I chosen, it's always a choice, to be self-centered and selfish? And am I not letting a dream die? And because I'm not letting a dream die, my relationship with my kids is dying. And would I be willing to prioritize that?
You know, as Dr. Kathy was talking today, I was reminded of a passage in scripture that comes out of Hebrews chapter 12, and I'll begin reading at verse 3. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you don't grow weary or faint-hearted in your struggle against the sin that you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And have you not forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastises every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? I think one of the biggest challenges in the Christian walk is really, what thoughts do we take captive and maybe, like Matt Walsh says, just say that they're not right thoughts and really reject them, almost call them to be obedient to Christ. And what thoughts do we share with our friends and allow ourselves to be maybe vulnerable and walk through different challenging times? What reality is there for us as parents that in these moments where we might not feel like we want to be parents, or that we love our kids in these different seasons that they're walking, do we really allow ourselves to be open and honest and wrestle through that? I think the writer of Hebrews really does a great job of calling our hearts and our minds, and I would say even maybe our bodies, to attention in this. That we don't forget what God is doing, that we don't look at these maybe challenges or dynamics of what it means to quote unquote kind of lose our freedom for the sake of something bigger and more beautiful, for the sake of really something that God has called us to. You know, not everyone gets to be a parent, but for some reason, God's chosen us to be the parents of the kids that we have. As Dr. Kathy likes to say, you don't parent the kids you want, you parent the kids you have. And in these moments, what does it look like for us to maybe take some of these lessons that God is putting before us, some of these feelings that we might have, and make them obedient to Christ, and really see these thoughts and these feelings as maybe an act of discipline, an act of organizing or righting ourselves in the face of God, to the face of God. I wonder if we do that and then tell our kids, you know, I've had to really repent. I've had to challenge some of the ways that I've been thinking about what it means to be a mom or a dad in this moment. And we let them maybe in to an extent on the challenge that it is sometimes to be a mom and to be a dad and to lose some freedoms on purpose. I wonder if doing that can give our kids, a light at the end of a tunnel of a dark time that they might have ahead. I hope that's an encouragement for you, and I really hope this whole podcast has been an encouragement for you this week. I want to thank you for listening to the Celebrate Kids podcast, this daily segment, Facing the Dark. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Cook, my name is Wayne Stender. Thanks for listening, and we're looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.